decided to go to VCU kind of based off of some friends being up here in Richmond, and I didn't really want to go to a university that was out in the middle of nowhere. So Richmond's kind of right smack in the middle of the city. So when I got here, I knew I wanted to go to the School of Business. I started off in finance and then quickly had a member of the Cornball Real Estate Program, Kara Nickerson, reach out to me and ask for a conversation. So went up to Robert Taylor's office. He was not there, but I talked to Kara for a few minutes, and she just kind of described the Cornball Real Estate Program to me in detail and kind of informed me that it was a smaller program. Scholarships were available, and you got a lot of one-on-one attention from professors and the people in the department. So that was kind of a quick fit for me. Started taking classes the following semester and got really involved into the Rho Epsilon real estate fraternity. Ended up becoming president later on. But it was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of networking events, which ultimately led me to get two internships while I was in school. One was with Valbridge Property Advisors, and then the other was with VC Real Estate Services, which is where I currently am. But before coming to VCU Real Estate Services, I worked for Valbridge for about 2 years. I was an analyst working on commercial appraisals, and we did warehouse, office, retail. We did a few residential buildings, which those were a little bit more on the difficult end. And currently, I am at VC Real Estate Services as a real estate asset manager. I manage a portfolio of about 50 properties, I would say, a little more, a little less. Most of them are office or retail, and we do have a few residential as well. But that's a lot. Um, yeah, do you have any specific questions, Robert?
Yeah, so let's go back to when you talked about Kara. So Karen Nickerson probably at that time was the president of Rho Epsilon.
I believe so.
And, and Kara was very involved in our program. She, in fact, was the first recipient of the Sam Kornblau VHDA scholarship, which was a scholarship and an internship with what is now known as Virginia Housing. So Kara was really involved in the program, big advocate for the program.
Mm-hmm.
So I think kind of what you were saying is along the way, you just really need to be involved. You need to show up a lot of times just for things. And with Rho Epsilon, the motto is it's not only the grades you make, but the hand you shake. So tell me about some of the networking experiences or things like that that you had to get involved with, whether it was through the Real Estate Circle of Excellence, Graker, or any of the other organizations where we partner with our industry partners.
So I think one specifically related to the Cornball Real Estate Program was the Real Estate Trends Conference. I believe I've been to that 4 years in a row, not last year, but that was one of the big events. And then we did several Graker breakfasts. And then I'm not sure what the name of it is, but I feel like it was like a Circle of Excellence.
Yeah, we did a Real Estate Circle of Excellence breakfast as well, which again, it's just another opportunity to get students plugged into the community. And Jamie's being pretty modest when he says, yeah, I've been to 4 of the Real Estate Trends conferences. No, Jamie has been there nights and weekends helping with the Real Estate Trends Conference, sitting around stuffing name badges, proofing name badges, and a whole host of things. But in doing that experience, I think it's really good because you get to know the other students in the program much better. And I think we have a lot of fun with it. So tell me a little bit about what you do at Real Estate Services, or maybe dive into one of your more unique deals, if that makes some sense, or if you can reveal any information about that.
Yeah, so a lot of my job consists of property management, project management, and lease administration. So we service a lot of the leases for VCU, as well as third-party tenants that occupy some of the buildings that we own. But one of the bigger projects, I won't get into a lot of details, but we're doing renovation on student housing complex, and it's 120 units that we're currently renovating, and that's been over the last 2 summers. The majority of it was supposed to be completed summer 2020, but due to COVID, we had several delays. But that's been a lot of fun because I've gotten to work with our owner's representative. I've gotten to work with a general contractor. I've gotten to work with third-party vendors that are doing furniture installation, furniture contracts. residential life and housing. It's a lot involved in that project, but it's definitely been a learning experience because I've never done anything like that. And last summer we also did a small retail renovation. It was a residential unit. We turned it into a first floor retail. So one of the art programs can use it as exhibition space. That's been pretty interesting.
Well, wait a minute. I thought real estate was just buying and selling houses.
No, I wish, but no, it's a lot more detailed, a lot more intimate than that.
Right. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't realize that VCU has a corporate real estate department. There are a number of larger organizations that have corporate real estate departments, and that's what you do. You manage VCU's real estate assets.
Yep.
So along the way, kind of jumping back to your student experience, was there anything that kind of jumped out either in a classroom experience that was kind of neat, or maybe some site visits or anything like that? Or even maybe even going beyond to the social things that you guys would do in Row Upsilon?
So one of the really cool things that we did when I was in the program was we visited the Port of Virginia. But that was just one example of several other things that we did that were kind of, I don't want to say off the wall, but it was something that you would never really think of doing, and then you get to do it because it's so heavily involved with real estate. But a lot of I think I'll go back. I really thoroughly enjoyed the networking events because you got to meet the key players in Richmond for the real estate industry. But I really enjoyed Row Epsilon as well because we did a lot more, I guess, intimate social gatherings. We did happy hour, we did light tours for Christmas lights, all kinds of stuff like that. I've enjoyed that because you made connections with people in the real estate industry that are your peers, I guess, and they're now colleagues. So I feel like I have an intertwined web, I guess you would call it, just from being in Row Epsilon.
Well, it's, when you mentioned networking, tell us about your internship when you were at Real Estate Services, and perhaps who the current assistant director is and how he got there, and just to kind of expand that networking and connectivity with others.
Yeah, so I interned because it was my junior year for Real Estate Services, and my supervisor at the time was Larry Medina, who was also a student in the Cornblau Real Estate Program. So I worked with him and I helped him plan board meetings. We did property management, project management, stuff like that. But he was interning while I was interning. He was promoted to full time after he graduated. And I think that was about the time that I got an internship at Valbridge. But Larry is currently the assistant director for VCU Capital Assets and Real Estate. And again, is my supervisor, my direct supervisor. So small world.
It is. Real estate is a really small world, and seems like it gets smaller every day. But I think just probably maybe gave you the edge of the other applicants when you went there permanently was maybe that relationship that you had with Larry.
I would agree. I think the internship definitely had a part in me having this job currently.
And thank you for that's a good segue. I really encourage students to explore internships because it's a great way to see if whatever company is a good fit for you, you're a good fit for them, and so forth. So I don't recall, did you actually intern with Valbridge for a while before
I did. I think I interned for about 6 months before I was offered a position.
So what was that experience like?
It was definitely different than my experience with VC Real Estate Services as an intern, but it was a good experience. It was a lot of learning. And I think just having that internship before starting full time, it gave me an advantage to be successful and to be prepared, I guess, for my upcoming full-time position. But I definitely cannot stress the importance of getting an internship or at least shadowing someone before you, I guess, apply or get that job that you want.
Right. I think again, it's just a great way to like learn about things. You can go to a class and say, yeah, well, this is what valuation is all about, or this is what corporate real estate or property management. But until you do it, you don't really understand it. And I think where you are now is kind of like you're a jack of all trades. When you said you're dealing with contractors, you're dealing with property management, you're dealing with tenants and so forth. So it's real estate has a lot of what I would say tentacles. There are lots of things that you need to know how to do. Sometimes I tell people it's almost like being a pediatrician. You need to know a little bit about a lot of things and then
Yep.
know when to turn to the subject matter experts. So we do have a question from somebody here, and it says, what stood out to you the most that led to the choice of a career with VCU rather than going to the private or commercial organization? So you were in the private sector
I was,
for a
yeah.
while with Valbridge, and then you kind of came back to VCU. So tell us about, I mean, your thought process there.
Yeah, so like I said, I did appraisal for 2 years after school, and it's a very different environment than what I'm currently in. And I think you just hit on it, is appraisal is very, that's what it is. But being here, it's a jack of all trades. You have to do project management, property management, leasing, acquisitions, dispositions, literally a little bit of everything or a lot of everything. So I think that ultimately led to my decision to come to VCU, is I was looking for not necessarily a growth opportunity, but like an expanding opportunity. And I think that's helped me get there. It's helped me understand real estate from every aspect rather than a single position.
Yeah, and I think, as you know, my background's valuation. I think it's a really good foundation to kind of understand and try to look at real estate objectively.
I would
Uh,
agree.
and then I think it's a very transferable skill set when you're doing things as you're doing today. Um, so tell us more about some of the social things that you did in Row Epsilon. I think a lot of people, especially in the pandemic thing, they just are not as engaged in student organizations and so forth. And as I recall, you kind of did what I would call a serious thing when you talked about the tour of the Port of Virginia, so more of an educational type of thing, where we actually brought in a couple commercial brokers, industrial brokers, and talked about the supply chain, the need for warehousing and so forth. But then you guys would do some fun things just to, again, more to get to know each other. So what were some of the things that stood out there?
Um, I don't know. We would do a lot. I guess when you say fun things, we would do a lot just as a group, not necessarily related to real estate. So you were just building those connections and those foundations with people that you ultimately are going to work with if you stay in real estate in Richmond. Um, we did speaker series, which I thoroughly enjoyed because you brought in Mitzi Lee, who was the director of real estate services at the time. That one was just on the top of my head. Several others, but you kind of got to, I guess, experience from someone's point of view exactly what they did day to day, and then just a little more about each field in the real estate world. Um, and we would meet with AREA, which is the Association of Real Estate Alumni. We would do some events with AREA, and that was fun because they had the same experiences we had in college, but then they could also tell you a little bit more about what it was like after you graduated and what to expect. So you also got to build connections with people that were in your position, but were what had passed that position as well.
Yeah, thanks for bringing up area, because like area generally is folks that are involved with that usually are maybe a couple years out to maybe about 10 years out. So they're maybe more relatable than some of our circle members who are more senior executives and so forth. But you know, you're exactly right, because during normal times, area and Row Epsilon would have at least one meeting a semester just to kind of, it was more of a social networking thing. And you're exactly right about some of those other experiential learning opportunities. We went to Regency one time where they were in the middle of renovating Regency, and it was just kind of interesting because here you have this basically mall that needs to be repurposed, and we kind of walk through parts of it to say this is what their master plan was, what they hoped to do. And I think that type of thing was quite interesting. The other one I recall, I think it was Gather down on Broad Street that
Yeah,
we
I was
went
just thinking
to.
about that one. That one was more recent, I guess. That was a lot of fun because that was still very newly under construction, I feel like.
Yeah, because with that space, it was just like, hey, here's an interesting concept. While it's real estate, what they were doing is more of what I would call hoteling, because they were renting out small offices, whether it is for a longer period or just as needed. But they also had other types of services in the building, whether it was package delivery or just conference room spaces and so forth. So it was a really interesting, I thought, combination of a real estate play and the services spaces. So again, kind of going back to when I was jokingly said, you mean it's not just selling houses, you know? So I think it is a lot of different things that you can do. So we're kind of winding down towards the end of time here. So kind of like to conclude it. Oh, hold on before I go to that. Another question says, can you give some tips on how to keep in contact with connections you've made through networking? I've been told to reach out once, but I'm a bit closer to graduation. And just kind of get your thoughts on that. About how do you maintain those connections, those networking relationships? And let me maybe add that, especially like in a COVID-19 environment that we're in. So how do you do it?
Well, it's definitely been difficult, but I think the closer the connection, I think the easier it is to reach out. You can text, call, you can Zoom meet, maybe an outdoor coffee, something like that. But I think for the biggest thing, like especially if you're at networking events, is to hand out cards, hand out your business cards, or get their business cards and follow up, even if it's just a simple email. It was great to meet you. I would love to catch up sometime. Yeah, and LinkedIn is a good way to do it as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it takes a lot of work. I was talking to one of our circle members, and he was saying after this all settles down, he feels like we're going to have to rebuild those relationships because people have different comfort levels of whether they, like you just said, you want to meet outdoor for coffee. Do you actually want to meet via Zoom? How do you want to get together? And it takes a lot of work to keep those relationships going. But they are critically important because remember we had another student that worked for Kroger in the development area, and his boss was just amazed at the contacts that he had already had established through the VCU network, and was just kind of interesting. So as we wind down, it's kind of my concluding question I've asked most people, and it's Jaime's pearls of wisdom. So Jaime's advice to students and what would make some sense for them to do.
I don't know if I'm breaking up a little bit, or if you might be.
Pardon?
I couldn't hear you. I think you were breaking up a little bit.
I'm sorry. So my question is Jaime's pearls of wisdom. What would Jaime advise students to do as we're kind of transitioning from being a college student to working full time?
Yeah. So I was actually talking to Larry about this earlier, and I think my biggest pearl of wisdom would be to reach out and ask for help if you need it. Whether it be Robert, whether it be the connections that you made while you were in school, but make sure you use the resources that you have to get jobs, to get internships. Everyone, especially someone like you, you're there to help us. You're there to help us be successful and to succeed in this world at post-college. So use resources and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Well, Jaime, we're winding down. Like I said, we've talked for about 20 minutes or so. And again, I appreciate your time and doing this for us. I know the students will appreciate this. Again, it is being recorded, and we'll post it up so others can benefit from it. And again, thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.
All righty, thanks so much, Robert.
Okay, talk to you later.
All right, bye-bye.